I think as filmmakers, we're always aware of where our material is going to principally be seen, and I think we're also very much aware in the production process, and even prior to the production process, even as early as script stage,
Mm.
what kind of proposal we're making. So, are we making something that is more episodic, that might be for streaming? Obviously, that affects the nature of scripts and the shape of the scripts. Like if there's multiple scripts, obviously it's for television, or if it's a single script, it's for a movie.
Mm.
But beyond that, we're there. I suppose there are two distinctly different worlds, and that's the world of television and the world of cinema. And I think the way things are written for cinema, the nature of those scripts and those stories tends to be more visual. It tends to be more expansive. It tends to include sort of more location work, I suppose. So you might have things that are set on a boat or in the desert or in space or wherever happens to be the setting for the story. Whereas television, it tends to be made, the process of making it tends to be faster.
Mm.
And so you tend to rely on some of those tropes, like a particular location that you'll go back to very often, like the hero or the heroine's house is a typical place in episodic television. Like there's a series that we just recently made, The Secret Service, in London, and you have Gemma Arterton, who plays our lead. We have her home life, her husband, her children, and then the way in which she's trying to balance that life with them when she's at MI6, which is where she operates. And then you get a little bit of location work where you break out of that visuality and you get into a chase sequence, or a car chase or an action sequence. But the nature of television, those scripts, is such that you can't afford, quite literally financially, to be out all the time on
Right.
location.
Okay.
So you kind of have these tropes, and often those
Key spots.
visual tropes and those key environments have been purpose built on a soundstage, in a studio for us to maximize our time when we're there. So very often they won't have a ceiling. It's full of lighting, but it helps us to light quickly, and also we tend to make them kind of large, or the walls can be what we call swinging, meaning they can all move, so that we can make camera positions and things like that. So, yeah, the disciplines of film and television are two distinctly different worlds in many ways, but it's also true that those worlds are colliding increasingly because televisions themselves are becoming bigger. So the experience is more cinematic for people to watch at home. So back 20 years ago, televisions might have been 50 centimeters wide, and now they're getting up to 1.5 meters or 2 meters. So people are having a more cinematic time. They're also at home. They're also buying sound systems. The
Yes.
technology is becoming cheaper and better.
All the 3D
So,
audios.
yeah, I mean, all this technology is affecting, I suppose, and blurring the lines between cinema and television. And so I don't think we can use the same defined terms it's not so hard and fast defined anymore.
You mentioned that the script already differs depending on where the film is going to be showcased, right? You also mentioned something that is called expositional dialogue. Can you explain us what it is and how does that influence on audiences?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of factors in the writing process that influences or perhaps informs the differences between cinema and television. For a start, in television these days you tend to have a lot more time to explore a character. You might have 9 or 10 hours a season, maybe 8 to 10 hours, let's say, television hours a season. So that's a long time to be looking at a particular person and be saying, so when we see someone for 10 hours on screen, we want to know who are their family. We meet their mum, we meet their dad, we meet their children, we know about their past, we know what maybe their job was 10 years ago, we know where their traumas came from when they were a child, all these sort of things that we have much more time to explore. But as much as we have more time to explore, the quality of the experience for an audience member is in a sense a lower quality because people are at home.
Right.
They're walking to the fridge to get a snack. They're staring at their phones. they're having a chat with their partner, because it's not such a controlled environment. The experiential side of it is less immersed. They're less immersed in the experience. So in a way, we write to that, and so we tend to put more expositional dialogue in. So we tend to not only have expositional dialogue, but we tend to even repeat the same content, because we know that people might have missed it in episode 1. So for example, if I'm the protagonist and something tragic happened to me when I was a child, and now I'm a spy, and every time I hear a particular song, I have a flashback or a particular sound or a smell or whatever, then, expositional dialogue, rather than necessarily showing that flashback, I might have a line to my friend in the film as the protagonist where I say, don't you remember, I told you before, when I was 6, I had a tragic thing happen to me and I lost a beloved family member. That's what we would call expositional dialogue. It's where there's content or information in dialogue. And one of the great dramatists, Robert McKee, said that information is the death of cinema.
Oh. So do you think there's a lot more information now in the movies like that via dialogue than there used to be?
I think in television there is, absolutely. I think in cinema we're still clinging on to the idea that people are focused on the screen and that they're immersed and they've turned their phone off, or they've at least put it on silent and put it in their handbag or something. Whereas in television now, it actually comes up quite often that we're on set, and we're reminded sometimes by executives that this is, and it's almost a sad term to hear, but we're sometimes told this term second screen entertainment. And when you're working really hard, as we do in filmmaking, long hours, away from home, all the rest of it, you're really focused on the quality of the visuals and the performance and all of those things. And then you have someone tell you, well, this is just second screen entertainment. It's kind of depressing in a way. So in a sense, as filmmakers, we have to put that out of our mind, and we have to think, no, we're making something that's going to be really important to people, and they're going to love, and they're going to enjoy in the way that they might enjoy a film. But the sad reality is that very often television is watched as a sort of a background element.